The rain fell hard that night. It beat against the glass walls of the Jew mansion, blurring the city lights outside. Lena sat on the edge of the leather sofa, her hands trembling as she stared at the papers in front of her. Divorce agreement. The gold pen in her hand felt heavier than a mountain. Every stroke of ink would end 3 years of marriage. 3 years of pretending. 3 years of loving a man who never once looked at her. Across the room, Adrian Jew stood by the window, his black suit immaculate, his expression cold. He didn't even look at her. "Sign it," he said, his voice low and emotionless. "You wanted freedom. Now you have it." Lena's lips curved into a faint smile, though her heart was bleeding. Freedom? He was the one who trapped her in this loveless cage. He was the one who destroyed her when she loved him the most. Her fingers tightened around the pen. "Is this what you wanted all along, Adrian? To humiliate me until I finally break?" He turned his head slightly, his eyes sharp as a blade. "Don't be dramatic. You knew what this marriage was from the start. A transaction. Nothing more." Lena laughed softly. The sound was brittle. "You're right. A transaction between your family and mine. I gave up everything for this marriage, my career, my dignity, and now you're throwing me away like trash." Adrian's gaze darkened. "You're the one who betrayed my trust first." She froze. Betrayed? He pulled out a folder and threw it onto the coffee table. Photos spilled out, her standing beside another man, smiling. Lena stared at them, disbelief flooding her face. "These are fake." Adrian's lips curled into a cruel smirk. "Fake or not, the board believes them. And I don't have time to defend a wife who's already embarrassed me enough." Lena's heart cracked. The man in the photo, Daniel, her childhood friend, was the only one who had tried to help her when Adrian ignored her. She finally signed the papers. The last bit of strength in her body drained away with that single stroke of ink. As she stood, she looked at him one last time. His tall frame, his cold face, everything she had once loved now looked foreign, unreachable. "You'll regret this one day," she said softly. Adrian didn't answer. He didn't even look at her as she walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Outside, the rain washed over her face. She didn't know if it was rain or tears anymore. That night, Lena disappeared. No one saw her again. No one knew where she went. Only whispers remained. That the Jew family's abandoned bride had vanished without a trace. 3 years later. The city skyline shimmered under the morning sun. New towers had risen, empires had shifted, and so had she. Lena stepped out of the black Rolls-Royce in front of the Grand Star Hotel. Reporters turned instantly, flashes exploding like fireworks. "Is that her? The mysterious CEO of Phoenix Group. She's so beautiful." She walked past them with calm grace, the sound of her heels sharp against the marble floor. Her long black dress hugged her figure perfectly, her diamond earrings catching the light with every step. There was no trace of the timid woman who once begged for love. Now, she was Lena Shu, the founder of Phoenix Group, the company that had risen from nowhere to challenge the mighty Jew corporation. Inside the conference hall, business elites whispered among themselves. They had all heard of her, but few had actually seen her in person. "Phoenix Group has grown too fast," one executive muttered. "They say its founder used to have connections with the Jew family." "Impossible," another scoffed. "If she did, Jew Group would have destroyed her by now." At that moment, the doors opened again. Adrian Jew entered with his usual cold aura, tall, sharp, commanding. The moment their eyes met, time seemed to stop. He froze for a fraction of a second. It couldn't be. That face, those eyes. Lena. But no, the Lena he knew was fragile, quiet, easily hurt. This woman standing before him was like a flame wrapped in diamonds, brilliant, untouchable, dangerous. Lena's lips curved into a faint, polite smile. "Mr. Jew," she greeted calmly. "It's been a long time." His voice was low, uncertain for the first time. You're the CEO of Phoenix Group?" She tilted her head slightly. "Does it surprise you?" He stared at her, unable to hide the flicker of shock in his eyes. "You disappeared. Everyone said you left the country." "I did," she said simply. And when I came back, I decided to build something of my own. Adrian's jaw tightened. Phoenix Group has been targeting Jew Corporation. Was that your idea of revenge? Her smile deepened, but it didn't reach her eyes. Revenge? Oh, no. I just wanted to compete fairly. After all, business is business. The room fell silent. Everyone could feel the tension crackling between them. She turned to leave, her perfume lingering faintly in the air. Before she reached the door, Adrian's voice stopped her. You've changed, he said quietly. Lena paused but didn't turn around. Without looking back, she replied, No, Adrian. I've always been this way. You just never looked. The crowd gasped softly. And with that, she walked out, her heels clicking like the sound of war drums. That day, the news spread across every financial network in the country. Phoenix Group CEO Lena Xu declares open competition against Jew Corporation. And for the first time in years, Adrian Jew couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her walking away again. This time, not broken, but blazing. 3 days after the press conference, the city was in an uproar. Every headline, every whisper in the corporate world carried her name, Lena Xu, the mysterious CEO who had returned from the ashes. In the towering glass building of Jew Corporation, Adrian sat in his office, staring at the glowing screen on his desk. Every article showed her face. Every reporter called her the Queen of Phoenix. His secretary hesitated before knocking. Sir, the board wants to discuss Phoenix Group's new bid. They've entered the same project proposal as us. Again. Adrian's eyes narrowed. They're moving too fast. Yes, sir. And, there's something else. Phoenix Group just hired 3 of our former senior managers. He clenched his jaw. Find out everything about her. Who helped her? Who's backing her? The secretary nodded quickly and left, relieved to escape the storm brewing behind those cold eyes. Adrian leaned back in his chair. Lena Xu. 3 years ago, she'd walked away with nothing, no money, no connections, no power. Now she had all 3. Meanwhile, at Phoenix Group's headquarters across the river, Lena stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her assistant, Mia, handed her a tablet. The Jew Group is panicking. They sent teams to investigate your investors. Lena smiled faintly, her reflection shimmering in the glass. Let them look. They'll find nothing. Mia hesitated. Miss Xu, if I may ask, why not just crush them completely? You have the leverage. One push, and Jew Group will lose its main partnership. Lena's eyes darkened slightly. Because I don't want to destroy him yet. Her voice was soft, but her words cut like glass. He destroyed my heart once, she whispered, almost to herself. Now I'll destroy his pride, piece by piece. Mia lowered her head. Yes, Miss Xu. That evening, a gala was held at the Imperial Hotel. Every major company had sent representatives. Cameras flashed, laughter filled the air, but when Lena entered, the noise dimmed instantly. She wore an emerald gown, her hair swept up elegantly, every move radiating control. People whispered as she passed. Isn't that Adrian Jew's ex-wife? She looks so different now. Different. She looks like she owns the world. On the other side of the hall, Adrian watched her from afar. She was surrounded by people, her smile calm and distant, as if she belonged to another world. When their eyes met, he walked toward her before he even realized it. Miss Xu, he said, his voice low. She turned, lips curved. Mr. Jew. May I have a word? The crowd pretended not to listen but leaned in subtly. Lena tilted her head slightly. Business or personal? His throat tightened. Both. She smiled politely. Then I'm afraid I don't have time. I'm here for business only. She turned to leave, but he caught her wrist gently, almost without thinking. Lena. She froze. His voice carried something unfamiliar this time. Regret. Her eyes lowered to his hand holding hers. Slowly, she pulled free. Don't touch me like you still have the right. The air turned still. She walked away, the emerald silk of her gown flowing behind her like a wave of quiet triumph. And Adrian Jew realized something chilling. He wasn't angry at her anymore. He was afraid. Afraid that this time, she might never come back. The night wind was cold, carrying whispers of things long buried. Adrian sat alone in his study, the city lights reflecting off the whiskey in his glass. He hadn't slept in days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lena's face, her calm eyes, her perfect smile, her quiet distance. She had changed. No, she had awakened. There was a knock on the door. His assistant, Aaron, entered quietly, holding a file. "Sir, we've found something. About Miss Shu's disappearance 3 years ago." Adrian's head lifted instantly. "Speak." Aaron hesitated. After the divorce, Miss Shu was in an accident. Her car was found near the coast, but there was no record of her hospitalization in any local facility. She simply vanished. Adrian frowned. "An accident? She never told me that." Aaron placed another folder on the table. "Also, we discovered that someone from the Ju family intervened to seal the reports. There's a signature, Madame Ju's." Adrian froze. His mother. He picked up the file, his knuckles white around the paper. Madame Ju had always hated Lena, calling her unworthy, a poor match for the Ju heir. But this. What did she do? His voice was low, dangerous. Aaron lowered his eyes. "It seems she paid off the hospital to send Miss Shu abroad under another name. She wanted her gone, permanently." Adrian's heart slammed in his chest. The rain. The empty room. Her last words, "You'll regret this one day." He had thought she left by choice. But now, she had been erased. Meanwhile, Lena stood on the balcony of her penthouse apartment, the city lights glittering below. Mia entered quietly, holding her phone. "Miss Shu, a message from Mr. Daniel. He says he found something about the Ju family." Lena turned slowly. "Put him through." Daniel's voice came through the line, calm but sharp. "Lena, remember the night you left? Someone tampered with your car. The brakes were cut." Lena's grip on the glass railing tightened. "Who?" "I traced the mechanic. He's gone missing. But the payment for the job was transferred from a Ju family account." Her breath caught. Her heart went still. So that's how it was. Her accident wasn't an accident. The truth burned through her like ice. She had spent years rebuilding herself, body, mind, and name. But she had never imagined that her near-death was planned by them. "Thank you, Daniel," she said softly. "This changes everything." Later that night, Lena arrived at the Ju mansion. The guards froze at the sight of her, stunning, cold, and very much alive. She walked straight to the main hall, where Madame Ju sat sipping tea. The older woman looked up, startled for a moment before composing herself. "Well, if it isn't the runaway bride." Lena smiled faintly. "You must be disappointed I survived." Madame Ju's hand paused midair. "Watch your words." Lena's voice was steady, almost gentle. "You paid to erase me. You cut my brakes. I almost died." The color drained from the older woman's face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, you do," Lena whispered. "And soon, everyone else will too." Madame Ju slammed her cup down, the porcelain cracking. "You think anyone will believe you? You're just a divorced woman clinging to revenge." Lena took a step closer, her eyes like steel. "Maybe. But divorced women can build empires. They can also destroy them." For the first time, Madame Ju saw something in Lena's eyes that made her shiver. The same cold fire that once belonged to Adrian himself. That same night, Adrian arrived home and saw his mother's trembling hands. "Mother, what did you do?" Her face went pale. "I did what was necessary. That woman was ruining you, ruining our name. She almost died because of you," he roared, the sound echoing through the hall. Madame Ju flinched, unable to meet his eyes. Adrian's voice dropped, cold and broken. "I destroyed her once. You tried to finish her. And now, she's the one who holds our fate." He turned toward the window, staring at the city lights. Far away, somewhere across that skyline, she was watching too. For the first time in his life, Adrian Ju felt what true fear was. Not fear of loss, but fear of retribution. Morning light spilled through the windows of Phoenix Group's top floor. The skyline gleamed gold, but inside the office, tension hung like a storm about to break. Lena stood before the large digital screen displaying market data. "Confirm the acquisition," she said quietly. "By noon, Phoenix Group will control all shares of StarTech Holdings." StarTech was one of Dew Corporation's core suppliers. Once Phoenix Group claimed it, Dew's entire production chain would start to crumble. Mia hesitated. "That's their backbone contract, Miss Shu. If we do this..." Lena's tone didn't waver. "Then they'll finally understand what it means to lose everything." The room fell silent. Only the faint hum of the computer filled the air. For a moment, she closed her eyes, hearing again Adrian's voice from years ago. "You knew what this marriage was from the start. A transaction. Nothing more." She had believed him then. Now, she would show him what a true transaction looked like, one where she dictated the price. Across the river, in the Dew Corporation boardroom, chaos erupted. Phoenix Group bought StarTech? How did they even get the funding? "Sir, our logistics chain will collapse if we don't act immediately." Adrian stood at the head of the table, his face unreadable. The executives shouted around him, but he heard only one name echoing in his mind. Lena Shu. She wasn't just competing. She was dismantling his world piece by piece. "Prepare a counteroffer," he ordered finally. "I'll meet her myself." That afternoon, a message arrived in Lena's inbox. From Adrian Dew. Subject: face to face. Body: "Let's end this war before it gets out of control. Tonight. Imperial Tower. 8 p.m. Lena read the message without expression. Then, after a long pause, she typed a single word. "Fine." Night fell. The rooftop of Imperial Tower glittered with city lights. The air was sharp with tension and wind. Adrian stood waiting by the glass railing, his coat billowing slightly. When Lena arrived, every step of her heels echoed through the open space. She stopped a few feet away. "You wanted to see me." He looked at her silently. The woman before him was everything he'd once dreamed of and everything he'd thrown away. "Why are you doing this?" he asked quietly. "Is destroying Dew Corporation really worth it?" Lena gave a soft laugh. "You think this is about your company?" Her voice trembled, not with weakness, but with the weight of memories. "You took everything from me, Adrian. My name. My trust. My life. When I begged you to believe me, you threw fake photos in my face." He said nothing. The truth burned in his throat. "You thought I betrayed you," she continued. "But it was your family that betrayed both of us. Your mother paid to silence me. She made sure I disappeared. She exhaled shakily, "you never even looked." Adrian's hands clenched into fists. "I didn't know." "I know," Lena said softly. "That's the tragedy." The wind howled between them. Glass towers reflected their faces, hers calm and steady, his breaking apart. "I can fix this," he said suddenly, almost desperately. "The company, the truth, I'll make it right." Lena looked at him for a long time. The city lights danced in her eyes, beautiful and distant. "You can't fix what you never valued," she said. "Some damage doesn't need repair. It needs consequence." She turned to leave, her voice calm, final. "Phoenix will rise. Dew will fall. That's balance." Adrian's voice cracked through the air behind her. "Lena, I still..." She stopped. "Don't," she whispered. "You don't get to say it." And then she was gone, swallowed by the glow of the city, leaving him standing there, surrounded by glass and regret. That night, the news broke. Phoenix Group completes hostile takeover of StarTech. Dew Corporation stocks plummet. In her penthouse, Lena watched the broadcast quietly. For a moment, a flicker of pain passed through her eyes. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "Fire cleanses everything." And she raised her glass to the skyline. To what burned. And to what would rise again. The next morning, the entire city buzzed with one headline. Dew Corporation on the brink of collapse. Stock prices plunged. Partnerships crumbled. The empire that once ruled the market was cracking under the weight of one woman's silent war. In the boardroom, Adrian sat surrounded by panic. Executives argued, investors threatened withdrawal, and the press demanded statements. "Sir, Phoenix Group moved faster than expected. We're losing confidence. The shareholders are furious." "Enough." His voice was quiet but sharp. The room fell into silence. "Prepare an emergency audit," he ordered coldly. "Someone inside has been feeding Phoenix information. I want names." No one dared to speak after that. As the room cleared, Adrian's expression darkened. Every attack Lena made was precise, strategic, and timed perfectly. Someone close to him was helping her. And he had a feeling who. That evening, he drove to an old district on the west side of the city. The air was damp with mist, the streets narrow and quiet. He stopped in front of a small cafe and saw her inside. Lena sat by the window, her posture graceful, a cup of coffee in her hand. She wasn't surprised to see him. He entered without a word. The bell above the door chimed softly. "You found me quickly," she said, her lips curving slightly. "You didn't hide," he replied. Their eyes met, familiar and foreign all at once. "Why?" he asked at last. "Why StarTech? Why attack my company this way? If you wanted revenge, you've already won." Lena's smile faded. "You think this is over? Adrian, this isn't just about you. Dew Corporation has blood on its hands, yours, your family's, your board's. I'm not the only one who suffered." She pulled out a thin folder and placed it on the table. "Internal documents. Financial laundering. Hidden accounts under your vice president's name. Do you really think Phoenix Group grew this fast because of luck?" Adrian's face turned pale as he flipped through the pages. "Impossible, this can't be true." "It is," she said quietly. "And when the media sees this, Dew Corporation won't just fall, it'll shatter." Adrian looked up, eyes full of disbelief and anger. "You leaked this?" "No," Lena replied, standing up slowly. "I'm giving you a choice. Expose them yourself and save what's left of your name. Or wait, and I'll do it for you." For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then Adrian spoke, his voice rough. "And what about us, Lena? Was there ever anything real between us, or was it all just part of your revenge?" Her gaze softened for the first time. "There was a time I would have given up everything for you." She paused. "Now, I'm giving everything to end you." She turned to leave, her coat flowing like black silk behind her. "Lena," he said, voice breaking, "if I told you I still..." She stopped, her back to him. "Don't say it," she whispered again. "Your love used to be a cage. I won't step into it twice." And with that, she walked out into the rain. Hours later, Adrian stood in his office, staring at the folder she'd given him. His hands shook as he read line after line, proof of corruption, betrayal, lies from the people he trusted. He pressed a button on his intercom. "Aaron. Call the press. Tomorrow morning, we go public. If Dew Corporation was to burn, it would burn clean." For the first time, he wasn't protecting the company. He was protecting her truth. Meanwhile, in her penthouse, Lena stood by the window as lightning split the sky. Mia rushed in, breathless. "Miss Shu." Breaking news: Adrian Dew announced a full internal investigation. His stepping down as CEO. Lena turned slowly, her reflection cold and unreadable. So, he chose to fall. She looked out at the storm, eyes flickering with something almost like sorrow. "Maybe he finally saw what I saw 3 years ago," she murmured. "What it feels like when everything you built turns to glass." The storm outside grew louder, but Lena didn't move. For the first time since her return, her heart felt heavy, not with hate, but with something dangerously close to grief. The storm had passed, but the city was still trembling. For the first time in a decade, the Dew name had fallen from grace. Morning news screamed across every channel. Adrian Dew resigns. Dew Corporation faces major restructure. Phoenix Group declared market leader. The empire that once stood untouchable had cracked wide open. And the man who had ruled it walked away in silence. Adrian stood at the edge of the pier, his coat fluttering in the cold wind. The water stretched endlessly before him, grey and restless. It had been 3 days since he stepped down. He hadn't seen Lena since that night in the cafe, but her words still echoed in his mind. Expose them yourself and save what's left of your name. He had done just that. And with it, he had burned every bridge he had left. Aaron approached quietly. Sir, are you sure about leaving the city? The company still needs guidance. Adrian shook his head. The company doesn't need me. It needs to be rebuilt from the ashes. Without me. He turned toward the skyline in the distance. The tall spire of Phoenix Tower glimmered under the weak sun. She won, he said softly. She always deserved to. Aaron hesitated, then bowed slightly. Then perhaps, sir, it's time you start living like a man, not a CEO. Adrian smiled faintly, a shadow of the man he used to be. Maybe. Across the river, Lena was in her office, surrounded by glass and light. The world called her the Queen of Phoenix. She had everything she'd once dreamed of: power, respect, freedom. And yet, something felt hollow. She stared out the window at the horizon. The sky was bright, but it felt distant, unreachable. Mia entered, holding a stack of reports. Miss Xu, the press wants your comment on Ju's resignation. Lena shook her head. No statement. But, you won. Don't you want the world to know? Lena's lips curved into a faint smile, but her eyes didn't change. The world already knows. That's enough. Mia hesitated. Are you sure this is what you wanted? Lena looked down at her hands, steady, elegant, powerful, and thought of how they once trembled holding divorce papers. I thought it was, she whispered. But victory doesn't always feel like freedom. That night, she attended a charity gala, hosted in Phoenix Group's honor. Cameras flashed, people applauded, but it all felt far away. Until she heard a familiar voice behind her. Congratulations, Miss Xu. Her breath caught. Slowly, she turned. Adrian stood there, dressed simply, no longer wearing the sharp confidence of a CEO. His eyes were tired and clear. Adrian, she said softly. He nodded. I came to thank you. She frowned slightly. For what? For forcing me to see everything I refused to. My family. My corruption. Myself. He looked around the glittering hall. You rebuilt yourself from nothing. I destroyed myself trying to keep everything. Maybe that's the difference between us. Lena's expression stayed calm, but her heart twisted painfully. You didn't have to lose everything, she said quietly. He smiled, faintly, almost sadly. No, Lena. I had to. Otherwise, I never would have understood what I lost the first time. There was a pause, the kind that held 1,000 unspoken memories. Then she asked softly, what will you do now? Adrian looked out the window at the city lights. Start over. Away from all of this. He met her eyes again. You'll be fine without me. You always were. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world felt still, two hearts caught between past and future. Then she said, barely above a whisper, goodbye, Adrian. He smiled, and for once, there was no bitterness. Goodbye, Lena. He walked away quietly, disappearing into the sea of glittering gowns and lights, until she could no longer see him. Later that night, Lena stood alone on the balcony, the wind soft against her hair. From her view, she could see the river glistening under the moonlight, the same river that divided Phoenix and Ju, past and present, love and hate. She lifted a glass of champagne toward the horizon and murmured, to endings. But as the wind carried her words away, she added softly, and to beginnings I never expected. The city lights shimmered back at her, like an answer. For a while, peace seemed possible. Weeks passed. Phoenix Group reached new heights, its influence spreading across international markets. Investors called Lena a miracle in heels. The media adored her, the people admired her. But success always came with eyes in the dark. One evening, Lena sat in her office reviewing project reports when Mia rushed in, her face pale. Miss Xu, something's wrong. Our overseas accounts just froze. Lena's head lifted sharply. What? They said it's under government investigation, Mia said, voice trembling. But, it doesn't make sense. We've done nothing illegal. Lena's eyes narrowed. Who filed the complaint? Mia hesitated. Anonymous. But it came through the same legal channel Jew Corporation used 3 years ago, before your divorce. Lena's heart turned cold. Someone's trying to frame us. Her gaze hardened. She had built Phoenix Group from nothing, she wouldn't let it crumble now. Call Daniel, she ordered. Trace the source. And prepare a press statement. If they want war, I'll give them one. Meanwhile, in a quiet coastal town hours away, Adrian sat in a small studio apartment, sketching designs on paper. He had kept his promise to leave the corporate world behind. Until he received the call. Sir, Aaron's voice came through the line. You need to see this. Someone's moving against Phoenix Group. The documents, they're forged, but good. Too good. Only someone with deep insider access could do this. Adrian froze. Who? There was silence. Then Aaron said softly, Vice Chairman Wei. He's trying to reclaim the Jew name and he's using Lena's company as the scapegoat. Adrian stood up immediately. Send me everything. I'm coming back. 2 days later, the storm hit. Headlines screamed across every major outlet. Phoenix Group accused of fraud. Government launches investigation into CEO Lena Xu. Was the Queen of Phoenix hiding a dark secret? Reporters swarmed the building. Employees panicked. Investors began to withdraw. Through it all, Lena stood still, her back straight, her eyes calm. Mia whispered, Miss Xu, we should deny everything now. Lena shook her head. If we speak without proof, it'll look like desperation. We wait for Daniel's confirmation. But inside, her heart pounded. She knew this wasn't just business, it was revenge. The Jew family's old allies wanted her gone, and they were using the law to finish what they couldn't do years ago. That night, as she prepared to leave the building, the elevator doors opened, and there he was. Adrian Jew. She froze, startled. What are you doing here? He looked exhausted, rain dripping from his coat, but his eyes were steady. Helping you. Lena frowned. You've done enough helping. He stepped closer. This isn't me. It's Wei. He's using your old marriage records and fake offshore accounts to frame you. He wants you ruined and me dragged down with you. Her expression didn't change, but her pulse quickened. Why tell me this? Because it's my fault you were ever in their sights. His voice broke slightly. You paid the price for my blindness once. I won't let you pay it again. Before she could respond, Mia burst in. Miss Xu. Daniel just called, he found the original transfer documents. They lead straight to Vice Chairman Wei's shell company. Adrian nodded grimly. Then we can expose him together. Lena hesitated. For 3 years, she had lived with the belief that she never needed him again. That her power was built on being alone. But now, facing a new war, she realized something. Sometimes, strength wasn't solitude. It was choice. Fine, she said at last, her voice low. One last alliance. Adrian's lips curved into a faint, weary smile. Then let's finish what your fire started. Hours later, in a private boardroom, Lena and Adrian faced the media side by side. The world watched as she revealed the truth: records, transactions, forged signatures, all traced back to Wei. Her voice was calm, cutting through the storm like a blade. Phoenix Group stands for integrity. Let this be a lesson: lies may burn brightly, but truth endures longer. By dawn, the news had flipped again. Jew Corporation's former vice chairman arrested. Phoenix Group vindicated. Lena Xu and Adrian Jew clear their names. After the press conference, the two of them stood on the balcony, the city still glowing with chaos below. You didn't have to come back, Lena said quietly. I know, Adrian replied. But I couldn't stay away when you were bleeding for the same fight I caused. She looked at him for a long moment. This doesn't erase the past. He nodded slowly. No. But maybe it's a start. The silence that followed was softer than it used to be, no longer filled with hatred, only memory. Then, as he turned to leave, she said softly, Thank you, Adrian. He paused. For what? For standing beside me, not in front of me. He smiled faintly. It's where I should have been all along. That night, as the city slept, Lena looked out over the skyline. The fires of revenge had burned long enough. Now, only embers remained warm, flickering, almost human again. Morning sunlight washed over the city like a quiet promise. For the first time in years, there was no breaking news, no scandals, no whispers of war. The storm had ended. Phoenix Group stood untouched, stronger than ever. Dew Corporation, under new leadership, was rebuilding from the ground up. And somewhere between those two worlds, between fire and ruin, stood Lena Shu. In her office, the air was calm. Mia brought in the day's reports. "Everything looks good, Miss Shu. The investigation's closed. The government cleared all charges. You won." Lena smiled faintly, her gaze distant. "Winning isn't always the same as peace, Mia." Mia hesitated. "Will you be taking a break now? Maybe, travel?" Lena turned toward the window, her reflection outlined against the sunlight. "I thought about it," she murmured. "But where do you go when you've already been to hell and back?" Mia said softly, "Maybe, you go where your heart used to be." Lena didn't answer. Later that evening, she found herself walking through the park by the riverside. The same river that once divided her life in two. She stopped at the old pier, the one where Adrian used to bring her in the early days of their marriage. Back when she still believed love could warm him. Back before the cold. The air smelled of rain and salt, just like before. And then she heard footsteps behind her. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. "Why is it," she said quietly, "that you always find me near the water?" Adrian's voice came soft, almost uncertain. "Because that's where everything begins for you. And where you always end up when you're lost." She turned slowly. He was standing there, dressed simply again, no bodyguards, no mask of power. Just Adrian, the man, not the CEO. Lena's expression stayed calm, but her eyes flickered. "You shouldn't be here. People will talk." He smiled faintly. "Let them. They've been talking about us for years anyway." For a long moment, silence lay between them, heavy but not hostile. Adrian took a slow breath. "You once told me I'd regret losing you." "I remember." He nodded. "You were right." The wind carried the sound of the river between them. She said nothing, and he continued, voice low. "I spent years thinking power would protect me. That I could control everything. But the truth is, I couldn't even protect the one person who believed in me when no one else did." His eyes softened. "I can't undo what I did, Lena. I can't erase the pain. But if you ever let me stand beside you again, I'll never stop trying to make up for it." Lena's heart twisted. She had waited once for those words years ago. But now, she had built a world that didn't depend on them. "Adrian," she said softly, "the woman who wanted your love died the night I left your house in the rain." He flinched, but she stepped closer, her gaze gentler now. "But the woman standing here, she doesn't hate you anymore." His eyes widened slightly. "Then, what does she feel?" Lena smiled faintly. "Peace. And maybe, gratitude. You taught me what I never want to be again. And somehow, that became my freedom." Adrian lowered his head, the weight of regret and relief mingling in his breath. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Forgiveness isn't about deserving," she said quietly. "It's about letting go." For a moment, the wind brushed between them, lifting the strands of her hair. He looked up at her one last time. "Then this is goodbye." Lena gazed out at the river, the setting sun turning everything to gold. "No," she said softly. "This is closure." She turned and began to walk away. But after a few steps, she stopped and glanced back. "Adrian." He looked up, startled. "Next time we meet," she said, smiling faintly, "don't look at me like a ghost. Look at me like someone who finally learned to shine without your light." He smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't pained, it was proud. As the sun sank below the skyline, Lena stood at the edge of the pier, watching her reflection ripple in the golden water. Phoenix Group. Her empire. Her redemption. She had burned, she had risen, and now, she could finally rest. Her heart no longer ached for revenge or validation, only for the quiet dignity of peace. The world called her the Phoenix Queen. But to herself, she was just Lena Shu. A woman who had lost everything, and somehow, found herself again. The wind whispered around her, soft and warm, as if the city itself was breathing with her. And when she walked away from the water, it wasn't with bitterness or pride, but with grace. 3 years later. The city had changed again, taller, brighter, faster. But some stories never made it into the headlines. At the heart of the financial district stood Phoenix Tower 2, a sleek glass monument rising higher than its predecessor. Inside, the air hummed with quiet purpose, confident, but not cruel. Lena Shu walked through the main hall surrounded by a team of young executives. Her aura was calm power, elegant, untouchable. Finalize the Soul Partnership by next week, she said, scanning the digital report. And make sure every regional team gets the new employee welfare plan. No exceptions. Yes, Miss Shu. Her assistant, Mia, now promoted to Director of Operations, smiled. You've gone soft, boss. Lena arched a brow. Soft. You're giving maternity benefits, flexible schedules, mental health days, Mia teased lightly. 3 years ago, you would have told me to toughen up. Lena's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. 3 years ago, I didn't know peace could build more than ambition ever could. Mia grinned. Spoken like a woman who's finally found her balance. Lena didn't answer. She just looked out the window at the skyline. The city she had once fought against now stood beneath her, not conquered, but embraced. Later that afternoon, Lena visited an art gallery on the riverbank, quiet, private, unknown to most. Inside, the walls were lined with charcoal sketches of the sea, the city, and one familiar silhouette, a woman standing at a pier, wind in her hair. A deep, steady voice spoke behind her. You still walk too fast. Lena turned, and there he was. Adrian Jew. Not the cold, untouchable man he used to be. This one wore simple linen, paint stains on his fingers, and a small streak of grey in his hair. Didn't expect to find you here, she said softly. He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes now. I own the place. Her brow lifted slightly. So you traded boardrooms for brushes? He nodded. Turns out building things with your hands is better than destroying them with your ego. A quiet laugh escaped her lips. You've changed. So have you. He glanced at her. Though I always knew you'd rule the world once you stopped trying to save mine. She looked away, her expression gentle. And you? Are you happy? Adrian took a slow breath. I am. For the first time, I wake up without anger. Without noise. I paint, I teach art to kids who can't afford lessons. It's enough. He hesitated, then added softly, you were right, Lena. Power isn't everything. Sometimes peace is the only kind of victory worth keeping. She studied him not as a lover, not as an enemy, but as a man finally at peace with himself. I'm glad, she said simply. They walked together through the gallery in silence, stopping at one painting near the end, the pier under sunset, 2 silhouettes walking in opposite directions. Beneath it, a small plaque read. Asterisk to the one who burned and rose. A phoenix never truly leaves the sky. Asterisk. Lena felt her throat tighten. You painted this? Adrian nodded. The day after I saw you last. She turned toward him, her expression soft, not sadness, not longing, but quiet understanding. Goodbye again, then, she asked. He smiled faintly. No, he said. This time, it's not goodbye. Just, take care. She returned his smile, eyes bright with unshed emotion. You too, Adrian. And with that, she walked out into the sunlight. Her heels clicking softly against the marble floor, her reflection merging with the city outside. That night, from the balcony of Phoenix Tower, Lena looked out over the glittering skyline. The river still shimmered below, calm now, no longer a border between pain and pride. The wind whispered through the city, carrying the scent of rain, and she thought of the woman she once was, lost, abandoned, invisible. Then she thought of who she had become, unbreakable, luminous, free. She raised her glass toward the skyline and whispered, to those who left me, to those who stayed, and to the woman who finally chose herself. The stars blinked in quiet approval. And far across the city, in a small riverside studio, A man looked up from his easel and smiled at the same sky. The world turned, softly. The phoenix did not burn again. She simply soared. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more original novel stories. And stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.